So,
How's Sandy? So you got anything cool tonight?
That was a serious
Weekend business?
No, I'm not.
Nothing at all.
It's my birthday, so I don't celebrate it.
What's that?
I don't like my birthday, so I don't usually celebrate.
This is Danielle. I mean, we don't
Danielle,
know.
we don't understand.
You're her friends. Do an intervention.
Okay, I'll
You know?
attempt.
Yeah.
Do something.
Well, every day,
Folks,
every
you
day
need to
you
stay
get
or going, but we got some serious business to get
You're
to.
constantly dying.
So,
St. Patrick's Day comes
Wait,
around.
so there you
Party,
go.
party.
All right, folks, I wanted to start off with vocab for the quiz, and then we got to get into serious business. What, you need passes?
Staying there.
You're still on camera.
Just standing there looking needy. Just standing there looking needy. Are you going to the same place? One pass filled out.
Face the camera, girls.
There you go. Nope.
Wait, let me zoom
Not
in.
this one.
Do it again. Amy.
Maybe
Again.
those.
I've got it. I already did it.
Maya, your turn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maya, your turn.
Your first quiz is coming up on when? Tomorrow. Part of the course out. I don't think it's tomorrow.
It's Friday.
It's Friday.
I know it's better than you guys do.
Okay, here are your words. You might want to jot them down.
Oh, wait. You got a quiz tomorrow?
Friday.
Oh, that's when it works. Why that works?
Yeah, I quiz on Friday. That's fine.
No,
It's
That's it, you know, our Monday for the weekend, you know.
Working hours Monday.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not falling yet.
As always, 10 vocabulary words, 5 multiple choice questions about lines.
It's fine.
Okay? So here we go.
2 seconds.
If you think you can spell it, raise your hand and volunteer and spell it for everybody. Number 1, Kirkhamstow. Kirkhamstow. Coop.
Circumsto.
Correct. Kirkhamstow. Number 2, Sobeo. Sobeo. Danielle.
S-U-B-E-O.
Correct.
S-U-B-E-O. Yep.
Number 3,
Wale.
Ray Spicchio. Wale Tapuela. Ray Spicchio. Marcus.
R-E-S-P-I-C-I-O.
Correct.
Doctor Who show. Oh, wait, no, that's
Respicchio.
that was someone else.
Wait, is it R-E-S-P-I?
Numbers.
C-E-O or I-O?
Numbers Quatuor. Sumo.
Uh-huh.
You want to spell
S.
it? Brenda? S-U-M-O. Good. Numbers Quinque. Offero. Offero. Marcus.
O-F-F-E-R.
Bingo! Very nice. Very nice.
You really need that pause.
Number 6. Haurio. Haurio. There's a challenge. Haurio. Brenda?
H-A-U-R-I-O.
Oh, baby.
You have to
Haurio.
write down.
That's it. That's what you had? Boom.
H-A-U-R-I-O.
H. Says Marcus left.
Number 7. Casus. Casus. Yep.
C-A-S-U-S.
Good. Casus. Number 8. Genitor. Genitor. Again.
G-E-N-I-T-U-R.
You may?
O-R.
G-E-N-I-T-O-R.
Correct.
Oh!
Aha, Genitor. Number 9. Natus.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Natus. Marcus.
T-U-S.
Optime.
What?
Natus.
N-A-U-T-U-S.
And numbers Decem Acies. Acies. Brenda.
A-C-I-E-S.
Optime.
Alright.
Okay. All right, I am not even kidding you. I am just. You know that expression, manic depressive, or okay? You know what the manic part means?
The hand.
Is well, okay. It's actually not related to manus. It's a Greek root, but mania. So someone who's manic depressive has really great highs and really great lows, and really kind of tends to swing between those two. I just have the tendency to get manic and then more manic, and largely just to stay there. all the time, and this is why I'm tired a lot. Because it's exhausting.
That's
It's
exactly what I do.
exhausting to be so interested in so many things at that fever pitch all the time. So,
That sounds awesome.
well, I gotta tell you, it's an interesting way to go through life. You know, since yesterday and through much of today, I have just been absolutely beside myself with excitement regarding these lines. Folks, I've been taking notes like crazy, and yesterday I printed out this binder full of articles from JSTOR, ranging from 1906 to 2003, stuff that's been published on this issue. And the absolute, oh man, I'm reading this stuff, I'm annotating it, I'm putting little post-it notes in here, I'm highlighting. And when I've got this all done, and I've got great hopes, although little expectation, for me to finish this up for tomorrow, because we're going to kind of finish working through the passage today, and then I'd love for us to work through all this stuff.
How many pages is that?
Probably a couple hundred. And in fact, we may just actually do a serious divergence here for a little while, because there's stuff about this passage that's very, very interesting in and of itself. Okay, so there's just that. Then there's the aspect of how do scholars approach this kind of an issue, which is something you're going to be dealing with in a small way in a paper presentation project of your own this 9 weeks. And then third, there is another component which strikes me as very, very IB, certainly very, very TOK, and even if you're not doing the diploma program or doing TOK, it doesn't really matter. The tools that scholars use to approach these kinds of questions and problems. I was talking with Mr. Cohen, the Hebrew teacher, earlier today. I'm wondering whether we'll still be able to use the approaches that scholars have used and the tools and techniques that they have used as we move ever more into a purely digital age. So there's really 3 whole separate sets of things to talk about with all this. I'm simply going to read you one comment about it, though, that puts it all in its perspective and is ridiculously funny. And I'm going to have to introduce to you to a new word, anfractuousness. Okay. First, I'm going to write this word on board. No word. It really is. Anfractuousness is a word. Okay. Anfractuousness comes from frango, frangra, frigi, fractus, which means to break. And the on prefix here is actually from the Latin ambi, meaning both, as in ambidextrous or something like this, okay? And anfractuous, as an adjective, it means something that is going in multiple different directions. It's kind of like a broken path. It's going one way, then it's going another, and so forth. And a fellow named G.P. Gould in 1961 wrote himself, his article alone was 60-some pages for one article.
That's an article.
Yeah, that's not really an article, that's a small book.
It's a manifesto.
He said, the principal issue discussed in this article permits of a simple formulation. Is the Helen episode authentic? And of a simple answer, no. But the road which leads from the enunciation of the thesis to the final QED, which is the conclusion of the proof, is long and winding, typical less of the unswerving advance of a Euclidean theorem than of the anfractuousness of a drunkard's homeward path. So the way to get to the answer is not so clear-cut like a logical mathematical proof, but it's more like the path that a drunk takes on his way home at night. It wanders all over the place. What a great way to start out an academic article. Fabulous stuff, deeply, deeply interested in it. Still, and then there's a whole other thing as to why on earth AP chose this. Because as everybody agrees, in fact, no, someone else had written a great comment that the whole thing is likely never to be solved, and had a great comment on which I probably can't find it right now.
Once they discover time travel.
Yeah. The second
I'll be hitting up
article.
Virgil, I'll be like, what?
First thing you do. First thing you do. Okay.
Yeah, I tell you what, first thing to tender, I'll go back and ask Virgil about this. Say, what were you thinking, dude? And that's part of the question here. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. Now, again, so a fourth separate issue is why does AP do this? And especially in light of this line, I'm going to quote the Latin here for you. Now this is an English author who writes Latin in his article. Quadeque viri docti iam pridem inter se, got a nice syncopated certarunt instead of certuerunt there. Semperque the fallor certabunt. A fellow from the early 60s, a fellow, the last name of Austin, writes, the passage so racially preserved forms an exasperating, and then he quotes a German word, forms an exasperating tumulplatz for students of Virgil. Tumulplatz means a stomping ground or area. So this is a very exasperating area of study for students of Virgil. Quade re viri docti iam pridem inter se certarunt, about which learned men, in other words, scholars, have for a long time now argued among themselves, and unless I'm mistaken, they always will argue. So this passage is confusing. We don't know what to do with it. Scholars have been writing about it for at least a century now, and I'm not sure we're completely convinced on this. Yes?
So you consider the possibility that AP had us study this passage so that this conversation and discussion would happen?
No.
They're not that smart.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. That's well, no, because I did find one AP piece online that's some kind of, I don't know, teacher aid to teaching this stuff or something, and I found it, and it just talks about the passage and what's going on in it, purely as it would with any of it. It doesn't talk about any of the textual, this deep textual stuff. So I really don't think so. Second of all, I think it's absurd to expect, and I'm going to brag on you just a little bit, and maybe this will make you feel better about humanity, I don't know, or at least yourself.
Can't change my words.
Well, all right.
Really can't.
I've been thinking about some other, I'm going to be careful how I do say this because we are on camera. I don't know that other classes would be up to this level of conversation. I really don't. And that's no insult. But I will say North Central and the kind of students we have and the kind of culture we have here, this kind of thing, which is serious, obviously serious collegiate. This is as high as it gets in terms of what we call classical philology, the study of literature, the study of text, and so forth. I can't imagine having done something or even talked about anything like this in high school. Can't imagine. I had wonderful teachers, and I can't imagine even getting her close to this conversation. So I can't imagine the AP would have done that. And then thirdly, if they did, that's just mean. It's just mean. Because I really don't think, and because the other thing is I don't think a lot of schools would even have the resources to do it. Certainly not all high schools have access to JSTOR. I think we were the first public school in Indiana to get access to JSTOR. And it's because of the AP Latin project that we did.
Yeah, if you click on high schools on JSTOR, there's like 10 of them.
Right, and I think there are some more now since we first got it. At the time, I think only Culver and maybe one other private school had it in the state, and of course all the universities did. So to even have access to a scholarly tool like JSTOR to access articles, certainly if you don't live close enough to a university to do it, that would just be mean. Not necessarily cruel of AP to do that. So, but like I say, I don't give AP that much credit to begin with. All right, so back to the business. We're going to get into, we're going to read this strange passage, and then we're going to see what all the hooting and hollering is about. Okay? So, we left off last time. He had just observed what, yes?
Do you have Christian's old book up there somewhere?
I don't.
You may have forgotten mine at home.
I don't.
Okay.
I have no book. And pause, but a couple of you guys, where is your book?
My book's
Mine's
at
in my
home.
locker.
I just,
Why don't you have it in class for us to be able to follow in school?
I'll write it down on my thing right now. I just
Go
forget
get
it.
it.
You need it. And yes, do you have it?
No, it's in my locker.
Well, I'm going to write you a pass. You need the text in front of you.
I'll slip it on the board for you
Can't
guys.
possibly do this at the level we're talking about without the text in front of you. Fill that yourself. Bring the pass back when you're done. Okay, Aeneas said just yesterday he had finished observing what? What heinous thing?
Priam's death.
Priam's death, right? And he kind of did this look around thing, respicio. He's looking around for what? See about his men who's still there, and what he notices is what? They're all gone. Omnes deseruero defesi. And they'd either jumped off the wall or thrown themselves into the fire. Janquarius super unus eram.
And now,
And now,
I
truly I was unus, I was the one left. Right? Super, sometimes super is combined with sum to make a compound verb, super sum, super esse, which means to be literally above, but by extension to be left. Sometimes I'm the only one, the left above ground. Maybe everybody else has died. So super sum means to remain sometimes, to be left. And so I look around, and indeed, I'm it. I was the only guy around. Cum limina vestae servantet hacetum secretum sede latentem tindarita aspicio. When I aspicio, when I see, I catch sight of. Now, just because I know this is going to come up in some of the articles and things I may talk to you about, where physically is Aeneas right now, do you think? Somewhere in the city. Be more specific. Definitely not near his house. Priam's palace. And more specifically, probably still on the walls. Right, because he said, right, his guys, corpora soltu a terra misera. His guys had thrown themselves off to the ground. And we don't have any indication here that he has climbed down yet. So when he looks around, he spies, so it's probably from a top-down perspective. At least we don't have any indication that he's left.
I'm sorry, I lost what line we're on.
567 in the 8th and
I
follow.
see it. Yeah, I see it.
He says, I look at Tyndarida. All right, who's Tyndarida? The daughter of Tyndareus. This is Helen. Okay, so we got another patronymic. All right, actually, we should say Helen and Clytemnestra, right? Because Helen and Clytemnestra are sisters.
Brothers with
They're
sisters.
brothers. Right? Clytemnestra married Agamemnon. Helen married Menelaus. So a pair of sisters married a pair of brothers. So either one of them could be called Tyndarida.
That's so confusing. Like, why would you do that? Because like, if you had like multiple like daughters, they could all be called.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I would
Yes.
think that's like legal instance.
That's kind of ironic because two sisters marry two brothers and they both end up cheating on those two brothers. Although one does it by choice and the other is kind of controlled by the
forced into-
gods.
yeah.
But they still both cheat.
It's a rich and complex story. He says, I spy the daughter of Tyndarus. Servantem the limina vestae. By the way, I spelled her daddy's wrong. It's Tyndarus. I saw her Servantem. Okay, literally servo servare means what? No, save. Saving the limina vestae.
Saving the doorway.
Saving the doorway of Vesta. Limen, liminus is doorway or threshold. Subliminal is below the threshold of your consciousness. All right, so I see her saving the threshold. Now, what it means, right, is if you are saving something, very often this verb is the sense of, well, okay, I should grab my red stapler, right? But from Office Space, it's my stapler, you know, that kind of thing. All right, so you're holding it, you're protecting it, you're clinging to it. Very often, and by extension, that's what servo means. So she's clinging to the doorway of Vesta. All right? It's derivative of that sense of servo. She's clinging to the doorway of Vesta. Et tacetam secreta in sede latentem. She's hiding silently in a secreta sede. In a secret. And again, we probably don't want to go so literal on sedes. We've had it lots of times now. Place, there you go. You can almost use sedes as a synonym for locus if you want to. It's almost synonymous there. She's in this secret. So he spots. So all this stuff's going on, right? Fire. It's dark. It's night. All this kind of crazy stuff. And he spots Helen. She's kind of creeping along. She's kind of lurking around, kind of hiding out by the doorway of the temple of Vesta. Dant clara incendia lucem erranti passim quaculos percunta ferenti. Now, how is he able to see this? Well, he doesn't have night vision goggles. It says clara incendia.
Flame.
Bright flames. Dant lucem. Give light to one who is erranti. Errare, to one who is wandering, and ferenti oculos, bearing eyes passim percumta. Everywhere over all things. Now, we got some grammar questions. Erranti and ferenti. What parts of speech? Same. Answer one, you've answered both. Erranti and ferenti. What part of speech? Participle, what kind? Present participle. What case? Present participle uses what declension endings? Third declension endings. The I is case and number. Dative. Singular. What's implied here is mihi. The flames give light to me as I am wandering around, as I am ferentes oculos, as I am bringing my eyes to bear percumta throughout everything. So here's Aeneas, he's walking around and he's able to see by the firelight. Now, let's throw this out there. Little grammar tip. Very often, it's good to translate participles as clauses. Okay? This is just awkward in English. If you say something like this, let's rewrite this. In Kindia, mihi is implied. Erranti lucem dant. Okay? Fires give light to me wandering. It works, you understand it, but that's bad. This is bad English. To me as I was wandering. Okay? And sometimes you can do it as a who, if it would be somebody else, you know, to one who was wandering or whatever. So, right, so very often those participles are better translated as clauses. Gave light to me as I was wandering around, as I was bearing my eyes, or bringing my eyes to bear everywhere on all things. Illa Sibian festos e versa pergama, tucros et poinas danet, tis certi conjugus iras primetuens, Troy et patriae communis Irenes, abdiderat cessat quaris in visa sedebat. she, Illa, having been, she having, I'm sorry, let's get the parts of the primetuans. Yeah. Fearing both the poinos daneum, the punishment of the Danaans. Who are the Danaans? The Greeks. Fearing the punishment of the Greeks and the eros, the anger of her deserti conjugus, of her deserted husband. Right? So on the one hand, she's got to be afraid of the Greeks. She's got no home there. She's afraid of her husband Menelaus and what he might do to her or have done to her, might have her executed or something like this. Why is she afraid of this? On account of the Iwersa Pergama. Yeah, actually, on account of the Iwersa citadel.
Posing?
Yeah, well, no. X plus werto. Werti, versus.
I mean,
Turned, yeah, overturned. Overturned. So, she fears three things. She fears, actually, first of all, she fears the Teucros. She fears the Trojans, who are in Festos' city, threatening to her because of the overturned citadel. Trojans hate her because her city's going up in flames. She's also fearing the punishments of the Greeks. A lot of them have died, right, in all of this nonsense. And she fears the anger of her rejected husband. Fearing all this, and this is a heck of a line, Troy et patriae communis erines. She is a communis, a common, okay. The Erinyes were the Furies. Do we know who the Furies were in mythology? They're specifically what gender? Female. And their job is to do what? Torment people, but specifically for what?
Crime.
For crime, for wrongdoings. Okay? For example, when Orestes, the son of Agamemnon, kills his mother and her lover because they have murdered his father, it is the Furies who pursue him all over Greece. And they're upset because he has shed his mother's blood. And ultimately, Athena has to decide the whole thing. It becomes a matter of justice. I mean, his argument is, look, she killed my father. And the Erinyes are especially avenging spirits for women. They are female, they are avenging spirits for women.
So they're women's rights for the ancients.
Well, seriously, I mean, that really is kind of what you've got going on there mythologically. And she, though, she is this fury. She's a common fury. Troia et patria. Troy and her own country. This is a hated woman. All right, she's got nowhere to go. I mean, she is bad news for both. Okay. Abdiderot says, fearing all of this stuff. All right, so she's freaking out. She's afraid. She had Abdiderot say. She had hidden herself. And in Wisa, Sedebat Aris. She was hated. She was sitting by the Aris. Had this word a number of times now. Altars. She was sitting by the altars. So, here it comes. Guys are bursting through the door. Slaughter everywhere. Fire everywhere. And the one person who's probably most terrified in the whole place is Helen. Because what's she going to do? Go to the Greeks, they're going to be upset with her. She can't ask the Trojans for protection because she's the cause of their whole city falling apart, and so she's hiding out at his temple. Yeah.
How did she fall out of favor with the Greeks?
It's
Wasn't
no.
her
The
choice.
assumption is that she would be hated by the Greeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's not a bad assumption. These guys have been dying for 10 years, and she's, talk about what's actually the cause. Anyhow, exarcera ignes animo. Oh, anybody want to parse exarcera? 575.
Is it the perfect third?
Yes, it is. Perfect third. Ignes exarcera animo.
Fire blazed in my heart.
Fire blazed in my heart. Okay? And he is just angry. Subit ira cadentem ucisci patriam, escelerata sumera poinas, and an ira subit. Anger rises up. Okay? Anger rises up to ulkiski, to avenge my cademptem patriam, my falling country. And I've heard it beautifully and perfectly from several people. It's got to be falling. It's not fallen yet because cademptem is what kind of participle?
Present.
It's present participle. And then suddenly he's looking around. He just saw his king viciously murdered. He's just thought about his father, and God knows what's going on back in his house with his father and his wife and his child, and suddenly he lays eyes on the cause of it all. And the dude just goes nuclear, right? Fire blazed up and anger raised up to avenge and to sumera sceleritas poinos. And to take sceleratas poinos. To take up wicked punishment. Now, this is a whole confusing line here. First of all, sumera is used with poina. Right? To take up punishment is in the sense of, and I like the other definition that Farr gives you there, to exact punishment. If I exact punishment from you, what does that mean?
You're punishing.
Right, I'm punishing. Basically, I'm getting something out of you. Right? I'm getting what's owed me. Right, so it's that sense of punishment. When I punish you, I'm getting what's owed to me. For I get said, that's right. Although sometimes
I can't
get no satisfaction. I mean, you can try. You can try. You can try, and you can try. You know, some man comes on the television trying to tell me how white my shirts can be. He can't be a man because he doesn't smoke the same cigarettes as me. I can't get no satisfaction. To exact punishment. Now, the question is this word sceleratas. Okay? What did you say sceleratas meant?
Wicked.
Wicked. Punishment isn't wicked. She's wicked.
So punishment of the wicked.
So, there's a couple things here. I'll go ahead and tip the hand here a little bit on this. There's a textual issue here. The word may have been scelerati. It would have scanned the same, scelerati poinos or sceleratas poinos. Now think about scansion. Either way, the syllable is long. Long because AE is a diphthong, or long by position, A with it followed by two consonants. So we're not sure if this is the punishment of the wicked one, definitely feminine, scelerati, or if by some sort of almost like a transferred epithet, it's that the punishments have become wicked. As one of the fellows was saying, a fellow named Murgia, in a 1971 article, he made a good point. It's certainly not that Aeneas thinks that the punishment is wrong. Aeneas wants to get her, right? He certainly does, whatever he does to her, he's not going to think is really wicked. He's not going to think it's a bad thing. So there's something funky going on with sceleratus.
Is it like that errors, not errors, but like ambiguous, what could be this or should be that? Is that one of the reasons why this passage is so controversial? I mean, that is like an example of some of the reasons why?
No.
Okay.
No. And the reason I say that, I can open up to you anywhere. All right. So your standard editions of classical texts are typically published by two publishers, Oxford University Press in England and Teubner, T-E-U-B-N-E-R, which is in Germany. There's a French company too that publishes some. But anyhow, Oxford is pretty much your standard text, right? At the bottom of the text of standard Latin text, you're going to find lots of little printing down here. And this is all the variant readings. This shows you what all the other manuscripts had for the lines on this page, and every single page has variant readings.
Okay.
So that in and of itself doesn't say anything about this passage. The whole text has variant readings. The earliest manuscript we have of Virgil is from the 4th or 5th century AD. So the earliest manuscript we have of this guy is, several hundred years after he was dead. So no wonder there's copies of copies of copies, and so you've got all these, mistakes. And part of what scholars do is try to figure out what is the best text. And so then scholars will do that, and they'll publish something, and hopefully that lasts for a while. Maybe change it after a while with new evidence. Scilicet haec Spartan columis patriasque Mecaenas